All right, guys, so today we're going to make a recipe called Cinnamon Swirl Quick Bread. It's a recipe that I found a long time ago on Taste of Home, which has some really great recipes to try. And this recipe today, though, I modified it to be gluten-free. So for those of us who are gluten-free, sometimes it's hard to make bread products that have the same texture and everything else that products with gluten have. So my favorite flour so far is the Namaste flour. We get ours at Costco. I've tried some other brands for this recipe. I prefer the Namaste. So we'll throw the recipe at the bottom of the video, but we're going to start off by mixing our dry ingredients together when we make the mixture. To actually begin, the recipe calls for buttermilk. I don't have any buttermilk, and you know, social distancing and all, I'm not running to the store for it. So I'm going to go ahead and curdle some milk on my own. Curdle, curdle, curdle. So I'm using a tablespoon of vinegar, and then the recipe actually calls for a cup of milk. So I'm going to use that tablespoon in there. 1 cup is actually 16 tablespoons. So I'm going to add the rest of it. Now notice I'm getting down level with the measuring device on the line of meniscus to make sure it has the correct amount of milk in it. I'm going to let that just set while we work with the dry ingredients. So to my mixer, I'm going to add my flour. Now it calls for 2 cups of flour. I have 1 cup ready. Again, just like our recipe with the cinnamon rolls, especially with gluten-free flour, make sure that you spoon the flour in. Getting the results that you want with gluten-free can be a little bit more tricky, but just keep working with it. You'll get it. Sometimes you might not actually, but that's okay. Keep trying and make you feel better that you're at least trying to get to a product that you really like. So we're going to add the flour in. Since this is a quick bread, it's important that we add the dry ingredients, and then we'll mix together our liquid ingredients. And we don't want to stir it too much, because we don't want to develop gluten in it. Not that we would for this one because it's gluten-free, but with any quick bread, you don't want to work it too much. So now I'm going to add the cup of flour. So it has 2 cups of flour, a cup of sugar. I'm going to call that flour. Cup of sugar, and then a teaspoon of baking soda and a half a teaspoon of salt. Already had those ready. You guys are having a great day today. And then we're just going to mix that up just a little bit so it's incorporated. Now I'm going to put together my liquid ingredients. Now, guys, this is a lot faster recipe than making like cinnamon rolls or something like that. So this is a lot easier to work with. This is a great recipe. Quick breads are a great thing to start with. Muffins, an actual quick bread. Pancakes are actually a quick bread as well. So I'm going to break the egg and stir it into the really it's curdled milk, but buttered milk is what it's replacing. Why do you want buttered milk? Is to maintain a moisture with your bread. You'll find that it makes a difference in the mouthfeel of the bread if you have that moisture added in there. I'm going to add in 1/4 of a cup of oil. And then again, I'm going to pour it right into the mix. It's going down right in the center of it. And I just want to stir it until it's incorporated. I don't, you know, before with the regular cinnamon rolls, we mix it on a higher speed. We mix it for 6 minutes. I'm just watching now to make sure all the flour and ingredients are mixed together. Everything's damp, moistened. It's all in there together. And sometimes I even then just shut it off when I feel like it is, and I take and run the paddle through it to make sure it's all there. So it's just a nice kind of runny batter. So now what I'm going to do is put half of that mixture into my already greased pan. I'm using, again, a Pampered Chef stone just because I like the results that gives. So I'm going to put about half of that in. And then I'm going to go ahead and stir up. This is a 1/2 cup of sugar and 3 teaspoons, which is the same as 1 tablespoon of cinnamon. So I'm just going to mix that in together. So I put in half of the batter and stir, stir, stir. Get that all mixed in there together. And then I'm going to add half of this cinnamon sugar mixture to into the pan on top of half of the batter. And try to make batter better by this batter, something like that. I don't know. You don't use bad butter because it makes it badder than us. There's some kind of rhyme there. I'm sure of it. We'll figure it out. Somebody will know it, right? Somebody will know it in there. So I'm using my rubber spatula just to kind of get all this off of the paddle. So those of you who are gluten-free out there, share with me how you've made your substitutions, what you've liked to do, if you've seen something work really well. So again, we're just putting this right on top. All right, so we have that batter on there. Now my friends have often called this smiley bread because for whatever reason, the weight of the cinnamon sugar tends to go down on the inside, and so when you cut it, it looks like there's a smile in your bread, and who doesn't want to make somebody's day by giving them a piece of bread that smiles? I mean, what's life if you can't do that? So we're going to then put the rest of the cinnamon sugar on top of that. And we'll just put that on there, and then we're going to cut through it. So we have 3 of us in our family that are gluten-free, myself and 2 of my daughter-in-laws. Sorry, camera. My foot hit it. So we're going to cut through it. So I just take a knife and just kind of make a little swirly motion. This helps the cinnamon on top get down further into it. So the recipe says to bake it for, I think 45-50 minutes. Yes, I've never seen it actually get done in that amount of time, so I think that's a glitch in the recipe. I start watching it at 50 minutes and test it by putting, a knife into the center, and if it comes out clean. Because of the cinnamon, sometimes that will stick to it anyway, because the moistened cinnamon will try to stick to your knife. So you don't want to make it too dry by over baking it, but just really watch it once you get to that 50 minutes and maybe put it in just 5 minutes at a time after that. So I'm going to pop it into my 350 oven, and we'll come back and see what it looks like. All right, so the cinnamon swirl quick bread is out of the oven. You can see it keeps a lot of that cinnamon right on top. I'm going to go ahead and whip together the glaze for it. So it calls for 1/4 cup of powdered sugar, so that's already in there. And then 1.5 teaspoons to 2 teaspoons of milk. Now, it prefers whole milk. I don't have whole milk, so I'm using my 2% milk instead. And it's just stirring it in there. Now you may wonder how I got that just in one thing. For 1.5 teaspoons, I have a 1/2 tablespoon measurement, and that would be equivalent to 1.5 teaspoons. So I'm just mixing that up until that glaze is all ready. I've made this bread many times and I don't put the glaze on it. It's just a little extra added topping on it. So you just drizzle that around. And this one, again, we did make with a gluten-free flour, so I'm pretty excited about that. I'm going to grab a knife, and if you let it cool a little bit, when you pull out a piece, it's going to be even better. But I'm going to just see if we made our little smiley face with it this time too. And you can kind of see it in there. It has a little bit of a smile to it, so you can have some friendly bread. All right, have a great day. Hope you enjoy it. Let me know if you made it.